So what's your philosophy like when founders pitch to you?
Yeah.
And they come seeking some capital?
Yeah.
What is that one thing that you look for in a founder?
So in a founder, I look broadly. So the first thing is, of course, being resilient. The other thing is he the kind who can attract people? Is he the kind who can attract capital? And both are different skill sets.
Right.
Attracting people needs an ability to work along with them, sometimes push them, sometimes let them make their own mistakes, and achieving that right balance, right? And in some aspects, at some phases of the company's growth, you have to be a micromanager. True. With those people. At some, you can let them be and say, let me see what he gets with it, because senior enough guy, he knows this space.
Absolutely.
Let's see what he generates. Similarly, when it gets to ability to raise capital, is a different skill set. It's an ability to build trust with the investor.
Right.
It's an ability to articulate your idea, explain your business, share numbers in a way that lands.
Yeah.
So in the way you make an argument, in the way you are answering a question, in the way you engage with them by sharing information, building that whole trust building exercise should come very naturally to him. Sometimes people can go at the extreme end. Sometimes they are very easygoing with information, and sometimes wrong quality information goes out, and the investor is thinking, let me then double check all the information that has come in. Sometimes you end up being too micromanaging on the information, and investor feels, thoda jada, let me really see what's going on. I think they are fronting it too much.
Absolutely.
So it's a right balance of building that trust with the investor, and that's one aspect of engaging with the investor. But to be honest, if their board or the investors are chasing them to say, nahi, yaar, ab bas growth dikhao and we'll get to the next round and so on. The poor guy also, investors are my stakeholders. He has to listen to them. India is a capital scarce country. If I have a startup, somebody comes to me, I'm going to give you money. I will do whatever you want me to do, because I need the capital to grow my business.
Absolutely.
And, give it a fair shot of being a successful company. I think at least investors who have been in India for so many years, who understand how India works, this is, I would not, jugaad is a fine term to use here, but it's genuine innovation happening here. They are actually creating a very low cost based solution using the best in class engineering. Yeah, it's difficult here. I think it's a very vibrant community. It's very potent, and I've seen it myself. It gets activated very easily. Once you reach out to them, I know of people I haven't met from my batch 15 years back, 20 years back. अभी भी एक meeting होती है. It's like we've known each other for years. It just gets activated very easily. The bond is still very strong. I would say for people who are studying right now, just make the most of it. I think that those friendships that you form, with your peers as well as the relationship with the faculty, just make the most of it. Those are the ones that will sort of take you, help you in personally and professionally for the longest time. By the way, I forgot to tell you, we have a group of mechanical students who meet every second year in Goa. So we have a big gang of 20-30 all people, very active. Every second, third year we are meeting. We'll do some big drama. Finally Goa mein milenge. And we are just in a pool for 2 hours sipping beers and chatting about life for 2-3 days. And that's something we all look forward to. So those kind of relationships are just, it goes beyond professional help and all that stuff. It's just, bring you back to, how you started, what you were doing.
So this is last segment where we do this like a quick rapid fire, like this or that.
Okay.
So
do I win a hamper at the end of it? Karan Johar's hamper.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do, for that matter. So your hostel or your department?
Gosh. Okay, department.
KLS or mess food? We never spoke about that.
Oh gosh, that's a clear answer, KLS. The only thing is KLS में कुछ बचता नहीं था. जब तक आपका आता था number और वो लाता था, जब somebody finds out, कुछ नहीं आता था. Used to love the mutton there and they would just not be available. Yeah.
First year or fourth year?
Fourth year.
Sadi Delhi, Amchi Mumbai, या Namma Bengaluru?
Gosh, that's a difficult one. I would say Sadi Delhi and Amchi Mumbai are almost 50-50. I've had fun in both places, and the fun I had in both places was because of my friends at IIT Delhi.
Right, right. Rendezvous or convocation?
Oh, rendezvous, absolutely.
Student life or current life?
Student life, man, no question about it. Absolutely, no question about it. It was so much fun.
Hi folks, welcome to this iteration of IIT Delhi podcast. Today we have with us Mr. Tarun Sharma, who is managing partner at Megadelta Capital and an alumni from the batch of 2000.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, sir.
Welcome and to my house, and it's great to have you. Happy to be a part of this podcast.
Thank you, thank you. We're very glad to be here, and thank you for taking out the time to do this. So, what is the first memory that you have of IIT Delhi?
Oh gosh, to be honest, the first memory I had is not once I joined, but I used to cross IIT Delhi when my school was in DPS, RK Puram, and I used to come back using that route every now and then with my dad. And I would look at the gate of IIT Delhi and I would like, boss, it will be great if I could get in there. I wouldn't need anything else in life if I could get in. So I had this very strong aspirational value just looking at that gate from outside in horse cars while coming home that this is somewhere if I could get in, I'll be sorted. So that's my first memory, just of awe, of aspiration, driving a lot of ambition.
Was that your schooling which made you think highly of the institute, or how were you exposed to that idea?
Oh, actually, that takes me back a long while. So my grandfather, who I was very close to, he's no longer with us. I was very close to him, and he always would say that IIT Delhi, he was mentoring someone, his neighbor's son, and who went to IIT Delhi.
Right.
And at that point of time, there was this whole tradition of IIT Delhi having this big dinner for parents of the kids.
Right.
And he would invite my grandfather for that, and my grandfather would go there and he would love it, and he would come back and he would be raving about it. So I think that started off in my mind, and of course DPS RK Puram people are just so competitive, they're going after exams and institutes to go after.
Yeah.
But I think that was my first inception in my mind that this is an institute worth chasing down and worth putting an effort for. So my sense is that's probably where it started.
Right. So you've mostly been self-motivated since as long as you think back, is it?
I think it was definitely, I don't think I felt any undue pressure from my parents or from peers and so on.
Yeah.
But an aspect of me was about my parents will be so proud. Let me just do it because everyone around me will be so happy.
Right.
So I would say it was self-motivated, but a lot of it was also because everybody else also knew how prestigious it is and what's the value of getting in there. So all of it was in my mind driving me forward. And to be honest, the whole, I would say the preparation phase, I struggled. I wouldn't say it was, that I was naturally a very strong contender for IIT. I struggled. I went through moments of self-doubt. But at the end of it, I felt it was, studying and preparing for it was not the painful part. I think the moments of challenge happened when, you would give some preparatory exam and your result would be low and you'd be like, oh gosh, I've been working so hard and nothing seems to be working. But I never went through some serious, this thing. So preparation phase, if I look back, I wouldn't say it was, it was full of pain.
Yes.
So I would say that, the whole phase of preparing and getting in was actually an enjoyable one.
And how did you find out you were selected? What was that moment like?
Oh gosh, that's burnt in my memory. That's such a... I'm sure everyone you ask has that clear answer on how that happened. In my year, the results were declared one day before they were supposed to be declared. I was out, I was chilling out, I had given all my exams, I was with my friends. And then I reached my mama's office and I got a call, oh, by the way, the results are out. And I didn't even have time to sort of digest everything because my parents had already gone there and seen the rank and they told me, you're 516. I was like, oh boss, I didn't have to live through that, last minute jitters. And I found it and I just, and I was by myself when I was given the news. I was at, I was at mama's place, but I was by myself and I just took 5 minutes to myself to just absorb it, to be grateful, thank everyone, and then once I came home, of course, there were celebrations going on. But yeah, no, thank you for taking me back to that day.
It's lovely to hear. And what was it like? So, what was the difference between the time that you actually found the result and then probably how your interactions with your peers were in the first month or so?
Actually, my first experience was again quite positive. I came in. The first day, of course, everybody was trying to figure out kahan jana hai, registration kahan karna hai, ye kya karna hai, all that drama was going on. But by the time the classes started, I remember the first incident being, I think we were in a workshop in the end of the first week, and we were welding kara rahe the. And I was like, everybody was having fun. Everybody was like, there were these nice sort of helpers there who were showing us how to do it, and we were doing it. We were we were struggling with it. All that stuff was going on. But it was just a fun environment to be in. Being in that workshop with everybody who's obviously feeling high because they've got into it. Struggling a bit with the hostel, everybody's sort of feeling a bit homesick and finding solace in each other's jokes. So वो सब चल रहा था, but I felt a very comfortable environment with all the guys, and it was unfortunately a full boys gang only in that welding, but it was good. So that was my first thing that everybody is struggling a little bit, but getting along nicely and being very easygoing with each other. So that was so I knew it कि इस जगह मजा आने वाला है.
तो कौन सा हॉस्टल था आपका?
नीलगिरी. But I was a day scholar. This was the year when they ran out of rooms. So they said कि जो दिल्ली में X radius में है उनको room नहीं मिलेगा. You'll only get room in the alternate semester or something like that. So I didn't really have as deep a hostel experience as I would have liked. But the Nilgiri seniors were a lot of fun. I went through the whole ragging experience, and it was it was so funny. They were just trying to crack jokes, make you laugh, and if you laugh, of course, then you get a punishment and all that. It was I never look back at it as being a very something kind of ragging which was trying to hurt you or harm you emotionally or something, put you in an uncomfortable spot. I think it was, I enjoyed that whole experience of, getting to know my seniors and all that stuff. It was fun.
So, क्या चीज़ थी जो बदली पहले साल में और चौथे साल तक आते-आते?
I would say, I think by the time you're in, the friendships are much deeper. So you know whom your gang is. You also have a very good sense of what you want to do usually. You're of course, figuring out that how will you get there, but you get a sense, at least I had that clarity whether I am destined for a academic life, whether that's the path I should take, or whether I should go into hardcore engineering, or maybe I should go into MBA. I finally took the MBA route. But I think that clarity starts coming in by the time you're in the third, fourth year. You have you have a good sense as a person. You develop a little bit more. I came in with a lot of insecurities about myself because the only thing I knew was, okay, Tarun, you know how to study, and you're a good student, and you can, you've cracked this very big exam, and while being mindful that, you had a couple of good days, because at the rank I was in, very few numbers here or there can sort of change your dynamic, or one question you get wrong and you can be out of IIT. So while being very grateful for having a good day or having a good couple of days, that's the only self-identity you have coming into IIT, right? You are a good student. I don't think many people came in having a lot of interests, hobbies, because in the last 2 years when they're preparing, you are just dropping everything and just preparing. But I think in those course of 2-3 years, you start to explore a lot more about what other dimensions are there to your personality, what do you like doing, what do you not like doing. I tried so many things there which I wouldn't have done in any other environment. I started playing cricket. I was not a great sports person. I never made it to the IIT team, but बस खेलने में मजा आता था. So hostel के लिए खेलना ये सब करना. I had so much fun doing that. I started. I would go to Spic Mecke. I got into classical music. I started learning the Hindustani flute. I spent a couple of years doing that. Our gang got together and we did chaos in choreography in Rendezvous. तो उसमें I think we won first prize as well, and we were सब नौ सीखिए अपना कर रहे हैं, and we had a we had a good team leader who trained all of us, headless chickens.
Yeah.
But all these things we tried, and just the experience of doing that was so much fun. So you also, by the fourth year, you start seeing more dimensions of your personality.
True.
You start being more comfortable in your skin.
Yeah.
मुझे ये करना है, मुझे ये नहीं करना है. And I am this kind of person. I was very introvert going into IIT. But by the end of the fourth year, I could say that I really had friendships I had formed, which I was very proud of. That look, you could go outside your comfort zone, make friends with people whom you don't always have the same background as you, but you made those friendships. And so उसका काफ़ी self confidence भी आ जाता है in a very not in a very overt sense, but you still start feeling that thing about my place in the world and what do I want to do.
Right.
So that I felt was my experience at IIT Delhi. Those 4 years were very transformational.
So you said that अब IIT दिल्ली मिल गया, आपको और कुछ नहीं चाहिए, and to coming कि अब मुझे IIM.
Yeah. So I was then what happened by third, fourth year, I was also very keen to go into MBA. And then there was a group of us who started preparing and all that stuff. I felt because I'd never been to IMA, I never had that, I already knew of people who had gone there and come out and so on.
Yeah.
But when you start getting into it, then your self-affirmations take over. Oh wow, IMA is great. You better give it your best and all that stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I wouldn't say I had the same very primal instinct like I had for IIT Delhi, because I was seeing it growing up.
True.
As opposed to for IIM Ahmedabad, which of course when I landed up there, I was I was overawed by the institute and all the students there. But yeah, it developed while I was in IIT, because I thought MBA was a given for me. The fact that I got into IMA was again very grateful for that. And IMA में तो all भी मटका लगता था यार मुझे, because there are multiple choice questions. I was like, उस दिन तो यार कुछ भी हो सकता है यार. I mean, ऊपर नीचे number होंगे. But it worked out. यार, thankful for that.
So what are the skills which you took from IIT helped you go through IMA?
So funnily enough, I should tell this, that IMA has a very strong ITD group.
Oh, okay.
एक सीनियर का होता है, अपने बैच का होता है, जूनियर्स का होता है. It's a very big group. Whenever you come, the seniors of IIT Delhi will take the juniors of IIT Delhi and Ahmedabad out for this thing. They form a very it's very strong. That group, and they are known, whether they are notorious for it or they are famous for it, for their competitiveness. They are very, very competitive compared to any other institute that comes in there or the IITs.
Right.
And it was. And they'll be in everything. वो election लड़ेंगे तो competitive लड़ेंगे, वो exam करेंगे तो वो करेंगे, खेलेंगे तो वो करेंगे. It was very this thing about it, and of course I was used to it. And people would be like, यार ये IIT Delhi वाले हैं तो बच के रहना है. But I thought that that's the separation that IIT Delhi gives you. That work hard, play hard. Everything you do, just give it everything.
True.
And it was. And that's what I've sort of felt, that it's a great philosophy to live your life by.
True.
Whether you are competing for a deal, whether you are being a parent, whether you are out playing golf with your other IIT Delhi buddies, just give it everything, and of course have fun while doing it.
Yeah.
So wo sab I found that nice balance that IIT Delhi gave was really helpful. I never found any friend of mine who was saying कि नहीं यार मुझे तो while we were at IIT कि मुझे acads में focus ही नहीं करना, वो तो pointless है, मुझे सिर्फ ये करना है, or the other way around कि मुझे सिर्फ acads करना है, मुझे ये नहीं करना. I think everybody wanted to do a bit of both and wanted to be good at both.
Yeah.
And I think this also this becomes a bit it was obviously organic because you're in the middle of a big city, and city has its own influences in those 4 years. But I felt our faculty was also very focused around making people not just be in some isolated academic world, but really do something which quote unquote is being useful. And that's what our mechanical profs would always say, that you have to be, as an engineer, you have to apply.
Yeah.
You have to make it relevant. You have to be useful. Don't just be lost in your coding or models and all that, you have to make sure it sees the light of day.
Yeah.
And which I felt was very useful. I mean, our profs would tell us that, yeah, kar rahe ho, please go and sit down with industry, work with those guys and figure out what do they really need from whatever you are developing. There's no point trying to convince a professor, hame kya malum, kind of thing. You have to go to industry and do it. When we were doing our mini projects at that point of time, our prof would focus as much on our communication skills, that how are you writing the report? What are the sections that you will write your report on? Because I don't want you to be just smart in your brain, but you can't put your idea on paper or communicate it effectively when you're sitting with the decision makers in any large company.
True.
So all this focus on being on life skills in addition to just academic rigor is what I felt was quite surprising for me. I felt IIT hai to sirf padhai ki baat hi hoti hogi, but they were very well balanced sort of feedback we used to get. Even people who were pursuing master's programs and all that, the profs would tell them, do you know that for a recommendation letter, ACADS is just one part that you need to fill in an application. There's 1,000 other things.
True.
If you are very clear you want to go for higher education, from a second year onwards, please start reviewing what you need to fill up for application forms. और तब तो paper application form हम भरते थे, so they would force us to apply 1 year early, get the application form, read what it needs for us to fill in.
Right.
And also read what a recommendation letter looks like. So they should know कि when a prof has to write something on your behalf, what he or she would be thinking of.
Exactly.
तो बहुत ज़्यादा they would be very real world feedback they would give us कि यार ये सब आप if you are applying, say let's take a Stanford, don't just assume that I am the top 10 in my batch and Stanford will come running and give me an offer. Please figure out who are the profs you want to work under, what projects their grad students are doing, are you aligned with those projects, and try to pick up those projects that are aligned with them if you are very keen to work with that professor. So all that inputs and advice were very helpful here, and I always felt they were not sitting in some ivory tower and giving gyan.
Right.
पढ़ो और ये सब करते रहो.
बिल्कुल.
But just telling us how to achieve your life goals. तो वो काफी helpful था, and that's sort of that practicality and pragmatism that they gave you was always stayed with us. I would think.
So वो critical point क्या था कि आपने अब सोचा कि अच्छा this is the next step I want to take after IIT?
I think probably around the third year is when I think at that point they were, nobody was really thinking of entrepreneurship straight out. They were all thinking of either you do higher studies or you get a job. And the third one was do an MBA.
Right.
And I think this is 2000. So international companies, and this was, .com अभी तक बस नहीं हुआ था, boom ही चल रहा था.
Right.
So there were a lot of international companies coming and hiring students, and we were all having stars in our eyes कि ठीक है, we are getting an international placement and that's a great start. And then the other option was you go there and work and then do an MBA from overseas. So that is something I explored. I was not too much into it. But then when the whole CAT group came together and we started working, it became a very natural thing for me to study in India, because I always wanted to be in India. I always thought कि अगर हम बाहर जाऊँगा भी तो maybe for a short amount of time, but I never had, at least at that point of time, a very strong desire to stay longer, because this is again in those years, if you would leave India, very few people would come back. You would assume people would set up their life there and all that, and I was just having too much fun in India. So I was like, I'm happy here. So it was. So that's why it just naturally ended up being CAT, and it naturally ended up being IIM Ahmedabad.
Right.
My sister had studied in Baroda, so she had told me great things about Gujarat and about living there and working there. So I was like, fine. I mean, IIM Ahmedabad needs no selling here. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I got in. I was grateful. Let's go.
So this whole momentum, which like the whole batch after batch that they carry about competitiveness. And actually just pursuing to the fullest for whatever venture that you get into. And also at a larger scale where there are so many entrepreneurs, there are so many industry leaders coming out of IIT Delhi. What do you think is IIT Delhi doing right?
Good question, yaar. I honestly think if I was to say, I think it's a combination of,
at least I would, to the points I was referring to earlier. One is the faculty themselves is very pragmatic, and I think it comes in the middle because you're in the middle of and very closely associated with industry.
Yeah.
You are not separated, and having access being in Delhi helps. The second thing is just being organically happens with the students because they are not separated from a big city life. They're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So they are exposed to what's happening, what's not happening, what are other people doing, so you see so many role models out there who you might resonate with a lot more rather than simply if you were a closed down campus, the only role models you have are senior teachers and so on.
Right.
But I think it's a combination of those two is what I feel is naturally helps IIT Delhi students of being more, I would say, more pragmatic and practical in the world. So they are not just because something like a great salary comes, they are not just running into corporate and staying there for long.
Yeah.
But they end up being a lot more conscious of what choices they have, what the world has been able to achieve by doing entrepreneurship and so on.
Yeah.
So I think a bit of organic this thing happens while just because you are in a growing, having your formative years in a city like Delhi. And Delhi per se is very entrepreneurial. Generally, I mean the communities that have been in Delhi, with Punjabis or the Marwadis and so on, that Delhi communities end up being very this thing, as opposed to cities in the south which are a little more, I wouldn't say they're less entrepreneurial, but they've had a very stable source of income because there have been large corporates or large, or army or government services.
Sure.
Delhi में वो तो buzz रहता ही है करने का. So that's the two things I can add to it. I know since then IIT has set up a lot more entrepreneurial cells and so on. FITT is doing a great job in those entities. So it has started to formally sort of source a lot of that spirit into students and so on. And I've been in touch with a few of those companies that have come out of that. Very strong entrepreneurs, strong hustle culture. I love all that.
Yeah.
So I would say, a part of it is faculty outlook, a part of it is being in that city, a part of it is them also catching it early and now formally promoting it internally.
Yeah.
So but it's clearly doing things right.
So what sort of advice do you have for people who are looking to enter entrepreneurship as a venture capitalist? And how do you think, what is the most critical point they should look at which they have to navigate very
यार मुझे ये सब बोलने में बहुत डर लगता है because हर एक की जर्नी बहुत अलग होती है.
True.
And it is very difficult to generalize but at the cost of generalizing, the ones that I have seen, the traits that I can pick and choose which have led to success are, I think, be very resilient. You will hear 9 no's for every 1 yes.
Yeah.
The 9 no's, maybe some may word it nicely, some people may just word it as badly as they can. Right? They would make you feel like you're the scum of the earth. People are like that. And when you're an entrepreneur, you're out there with an idea, you're trying to either raise money, you're trying to win clients, you're trying to hire people. People can be cruel, and it is, so don't take it personally.
Yeah.
So be very, very resilient when that happens, when you hear a no. But distill what you are hearing from the no's. Is there something useful I can take away from that conversation and so on? So that's one thing. The second thing I would say is be supremely self-aware. It's easy to say than to be self-aware. Yeah. But that is very sort of the key in you finding out what I need to do for my firm, for my startup.
Yeah.
These are the skills I am lacking, so I need to hire someone to fill this out.
Yeah.
मेरे में ये मुश्किल से होता है तो ये करना चाहिए. My co-founder and I together have this thing lacking. Let's try and so it in terms of your hiring decisions, in terms of ability to hire people who are smarter than you in those aspects, self-awareness and security obviously comes with that. So I would say these are all soft factors that end up happening it. Yeah. But the third thing I would always say is always keep questioning your assumptions. आपको don't be sort of pregnant with your idea कि यही करना है, अब हो गया तो बच्चा निकालना ही है.
बिल्कुल.
Be ready to shift, and because that ability of shifting will massively reduce over time as you get more and more crystallized in your idea.
Absolutely.
So the earlier you are able to do that and shift and be nimble on your feet, do it.
Yeah.
कोई शर्म की बात नहीं है. Keep doing it. The best entrepreneurs I know are even at large companies, they are happy to disrupt their own bloody company. कि यार इस टीम को मैं पूरे निकाल रहा हूँ, मैं एक और टीम सेट कर रहा हूँ, which is going to develop this product for me, and they are brutal in doing that. So while there is a value to having process and all that stuff, but just be ready to call BS on things. यार ये नहीं चल रहा, let's move on.
So what's your philosophy like when founders pitch to you?
Yeah.
And they come seeking some capital?
Yeah.
What is that one thing that you look for in a founder?
So in a founder, I look broadly. So the first thing is of course being resilient. The other thing is he the kind who can attract people? Is he the kind who can attract capital? And both are different skill sets.
Right.
Attracting people needs an ability to work along with them, sometimes push them, sometimes let them make their own mistakes, and achieving that right balance, right? And in some aspects, at some phases of the company's growth, you have to be a micromanager.
True.
With those people. At some, you can let them be and say, let me see what he gets with it, because senior enough guy, he knows this space.
Absolutely.
Let's see what he generates. Similarly, when it gets to ability to raise capital, is a different skill set. It's an ability to build trust with the investor.
Right.
It's an ability to articulate your idea, explain your business, share numbers in a way that lands.
Yeah.
So in the way you make an argument, in the way you are answering a question, in the way you engage with them by sharing information, building that whole trust building exercise should come very naturally to him. Sometimes people can go at the extreme end. Sometimes they are very easygoing with information and sometimes wrong quality information goes out and the investor is thinking, let me then double check all the information that has come in. Sometimes you end up being too micromanaging on the information and investor feels thoda jyada, let me really see what's going on. I think they are fronting it too much.
Absolutely.
So it's a right balance of building that trust with the investor, and that's one aspect of engaging with the investor. Of course, there's a lot of partnership aspect of it that comes in after investor is on board and how you engage with them at the board level and so on. But I think those capabilities usually come in over time, to be honest. When you are in your 20s, it's difficult to develop those skills.
Sure.
We all learn it over time. So at the stage that we work in, which is not very early stage, we do more late stage venture, like Series B, Series C.
Yeah.
In that stages, we expect people to have those experiences, to be not fully polished diamonds, but half polished diamonds, almost there.
True.
And then hopefully, they get to a point where they can do an IPO or do a great strategic sale and generate, returns for everyone around.
Yeah. So, raising capital versus sheer profitability.
Yeah.
How does a founder or someone starting up navigate that sort of a dilemma? Obviously, these are things in different times in life cycle.
Yeah.
But what should be a true north for an investor?
In fact, we were just discussing this internally the other day, and we were saying that, look, I think this whole chasing, of course, the market is now corrected, and market now is talking profitability. But these have been the starting tenets here of investing.
Yeah.
अगर आपका profitability नहीं है तो आप बात ही क्या कर रहे हो? That kind of approach.
बिल्कुल.
So but to be honest, nobody accuses investors of independent thinking. हमारी भी herd mentality होती है. They go in one direction or the other. But I think from an entrepreneur perspective, ideally, yes, they should be focused on getting your unit economics right. You may not be able to show it at the outset, but have a path towards it and genuinely chase it. But to be honest, if their board is or the investors are chasing them to say, nahi, yaar, ab bas growth dikhao and we'll get to the next round and so on. The poor guy also, investors are my stakeholders. He has to listen to them.
Yeah.
So at some point, you can't put all the blame on the investors,
Right.
on the entrepreneur in case he's not able to generate profitability. It should be, the ideal way is entrepreneur starts off with his vision of the company, and he may take a call that in this phase I will go for growth.
Yeah.
I may sacrifice profitability a little bit, but that will continue to be my stated goal. And he seeks investors who are aligned with that goal.
Yeah.
That if an investor is not aligned with that goal and asking them to chase profitability, chase growth at the cost of profits, then you have to be mindful that maybe that's not the best partner.
Yeah.
For me. So, but ये सब theoretical हो जाता है यार after a point. India is a capital scarce country.
जी.
If I have a startup, somebody comes to me, I'm going to give you money. I will say I will do whatever you want me to do because I need the capital to grow my business.
Absolutely.
And, give it a fair shot of being a successful company.
True.
So, थोड़ा सा dynamic यार India में is a bit like that. We are capital scarce, so we end up listening to investors too much.
बिल्कुल.
And which may end up in suboptimal this thing if the investors are not experienced enough though, or they haven't seen 2-3 cycles.
Yeah.
Who knows that ये तब तक ही चलता है जब तक the capital availability is there. So I think as our market matures, entrepreneurs will come with the right viewpoint. Investors will be selected who align with the entrepreneur, and investors generally will also push the right decisions on the entrepreneur.
Right.
And this is all a part of very sort of market maturity process. I mean, we had in the US when I was working for this fund. I was in India, but it was a US based fund. Those guys had 30 years of experience.
Yeah.
They were not swayed by this thing here or there.
Yeah.
They've seen several cycles. So
absolutely,
with experience, with having those years under your belt, you get a sense of equanimity around these things. Okay, market is going crazy.
Yeah.
But let's not do crazy things.
Sure.
Market is very depressed, but let's not again do things which can hurt the company just because the market is in that phase. So life में वो balancing age के साथ आ जाता है.
Right, but what about those folks? Now, it's a very good space that you are venturing into with so sort of mid-cycle companies, if I may say so. What about the folks who are looking at the media atmosphere and the limelight entrepreneurship is grabbing, and how do you think they should navigate it? Because obviously there's a lot of noise, if I may say so. So, what about that aspect of entrepreneurship?
Look, the media is the media. They will play up whatever gets eyeballs. 2 years back, they were celebrating a lot of entrepreneurs because they were able to attract capital.
Yeah.
Now, if one of them falters, then again there's a glare on it. ठीक है यार, वो media का काम है. That's what they do. I think the good takeaways for entrepreneurs can be that, look, these are role models for me.
Yes.
And these are also role models on what not to do. Because when you fall badly.
Right.
And then that's effectively that's what I would expect entrepreneurs to sort of filter it and see the good parts of it. Thankfully, but I would say on balance, media, thanks to the media spotlight on entrepreneurship, it has spawned so many entrepreneurs here. People are now, even in small town cities, parents, if a kid goes to and says, I'm setting a gaming startup,
absolutely,
the parents would throw him out of the house. What are you smoking? They all see that these are new stuff that is coming out. We really don't understand it, but entrepreneurship is here to stay.
Right.
And the next, they will not be job seekers. They will be a generation of job creators.
Right.
And that's what that's what the India story can be all about. And and India is such a societal culture, it's community based. Once the community starts getting comfortable with risk taking, entrepreneurship and all that, we'll see a different class of entrepreneurs come out here.
True.
So I think on balance, media helps the entrepreneur story or helps the startup story.
Yeah.
And to be right, they should put the spotlight when things go wrong, especially on things where governance issues, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that people know कि ये भी नहीं करना चाहिए.
बिल्कुल. So, Abhi, what sort of vision do you have, and what sort of a role do you see IIT playing in the years to come as to shape the national trajectory of growth? So your thoughts on that?
I think more. So I'll tell you this: when we look at investments, and we do broadly in 3 spaces, we do consumer, we do enterprise tech, we do healthcare.
Yes.
Consumer stories end up getting enough interest, demand, और उनका momentum बन जाता है over time because there's a lot of money chasing that. I think when we really talk about innovation, it's where in enterprise software and particularly in healthcare where we find it lacking.
Yeah.
Of course, we understand we don't have in healthcare, and I look closely at healthcare as well. We don't see a very strong ecosystem developing where innovative companies are getting back, be it on the device side or be it on the pharma side.
Yeah.
It's really a challenge. So I feel that's where institutes like IIT can do a lot of incubation, and I think there was some tie-up with the Stanford Design Center at some point in the past, where a lot more of these companies can see the light of day, where it's a plan on paper, it's a design on paper, but something which can really get funded and can be taken, then it can be spun out and so on. So I think those elements of innovation where as investors we find it's a lonely journey. Because there are too few of them, koi achhi company aati hai, we have to really go away from a fund thesis and invest in a very young company. And these young companies, you have to have a portfolio approach. आप एक करोगे तो it's not that वो एक निकल जाएगी. You have to invest in 10 and 2, 3 come up and do well. So somebody who approaches it like that, I think can be a really meaningful differentiator for India in these spaces, which are I think lacking in innovation.
Sure.
I know other IIT Delhi भी कर रही है, बाकी IITs भी कर रहे हैं at their own level. I just wish it was much larger. I would want 20, 30 companies coming out of there every year who get funded, because people are looking at really changing the sort of the curve on healthcare, for instance, in India. And we have seen companies where it's a massive transformation where it's a combination of really affordable technology, much better than what's there right now, and it's still able to deliver very strong gross margins, very strong margin profiles. Because India has this whole frugal innovation, the bill of materials, the way they engineer it will be very, very low. Cost will be very low. And it's it's so deep requirement in India that they can still go and clean out the market, clean out the international guys. We have a company that does radiotherapy, which is treating cancer through radiation. They have made a machine in India. We sell it like 40% of the cost of the international guys. We have got all the US approvals and everything else in place. We beat them on features.
Right.
And it's completely an Indian product. We're selling it to Africa and all that stuff. So I see there should be 15 stories, 20 stories like these that come out.
True.
Where you can deliver good returns, but वो innovation के लिए थोड़ा सा support चाहिए. So that's where I feel these guys can step in and do really meaningful work there.
So जैसे जुगाड़ है, right? If you speak about frugal innovation and the actually institutional support to jugaad, it sort of feels counterintuitive to say that. So what's your thoughts on that?
I think at least investors who are investors who have been in India for so many years, who understand how India works, this is I would not jugaad is a fine term to use here. But it's genuine innovation happening here. They are actually creating a very low cost based solution using the best in class engineering. So people like it. So people are, I would say, it is India's superpower. वो उसको जितना support आप कर सकते हो, and you can see it in every aspect of it, right?
True.
So जितना आप उसको support करोगे, it'll just grow massively. And what's happening? The more as AI comes in and all these new technologies are leapfrogging. India is going to just utilize it to put the cost of developing this, it will just fall off a cliff. So inko, for the same $20 million which would have funded say 10 startups, now that $20 million can fund 40 startups. They're using AI and generative intelligence, general intelligence. Which is India's again strength कि हम तो यार cost को इतना squeeze कर देंगे. So I think this is going to be very meaningful sort of disruption in India's setup. You may not even need a coder at all to set up your app. You can just do it with one part-time coder working and your app is up and running. Let's see where that gets us. So absolutely. I think it's to be celebrated, it's to be supported.
So you do speak about like a lot of stuff which is happening on the ground and like from scratch itself. But obviously there is an immense legacy and immense momentum which the IIT Delhi community has built across the globe. right? There's network, there is capital, there is expertise, there is experience. What sort of a role do you see the whole community playing in nurturing this? And what sort of a perspective should they look at?
Yeah, I think, it's difficult. Yeah, I think it's a very vibrant community. It's very potent, and I've seen it myself. It gets activated very easily. Once you reach out to them, I know of people I haven't met from my batch 15 years back, 20 years back. अभी भी एक meeting होती है. It's like we've known each other for years. It just gets activated very easily. The bond is still very strong.
Yeah.
Now, how do you formalize it is a tricky one. I don't have a clear answer. I know my other alma mater, IIM Ahmedabad, also tries to sort of generate a lot of this thing from alumni, a lot of engagement with the alumni.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to really sharp segmentation, that you get all alumni to tell you these are my areas of interest professionally. And this may be nothing to do with their own professional background. I know of people who are in the US being on the tech side but really want to do something in healthcare, as an example, right? And then as you are through your students, through your startup world, you then expose them to what's happening in IIT Delhi in these particular segments. There may be projects happening, there may be people looking for funding, there may be alumni collaborations that may be happening, or whatever, or an alumni might be looking for a co-founder. I want to do a startup, I'm looking for a co-founder. If IIT Delhi का मिल जाए तो बहुत ही बढ़िया होगा.
बिल्कुल.
So you can then, when you micro segment it, then otherwise it becomes too many opportunities, too many discussions to do, and it just gets lost. So one possible idea would be really to try and do some matching. And I think alumni will come forward and really say, this is what I'm interested in, this is how I want to work, and then hopefully the engine does its work.
Yeah. So I think I have a lot of follow-up questions, but I think this is a lot of meaty stuff, right, to put forth. And I'm sure this would be very helpful for people looking at this podcast. Is there anything dil se you would want to speak to the audience? Maybe people sitting in hostels right now, people who look up to you, people who are eyeing the entrepreneurial space and even VC space for that matter. What is that one advice that you want to give them? That's the camera.
No advice, to be honest. I would say for people who are studying right now, just make the most of it. I think that those friendships that you form, with your peers, as well as the relationship with the faculty, just make the most of it. Those are the ones that will sort of take you, help you in personally and professionally for the longest time. By the way, I forgot to tell you, we have a group of mechanical students who meet every second year in Goa. So we have a big gang of 20-30 all people, very active. Every second, third year we are meeting. We'll do some big drama, idhar milte, finally Goa mein milenge. And we are just in a pool for 2 hours sipping beers and chatting about life for 2-3 days. And that's something we all look forward to. So those kind of relationships are just, it goes beyond professional help and all that stuff. It's just, bring you back to, how you started, what you were doing. It's just those friendships are a very good help. So make sure you invest in those friendships, and life will take its own course, and just enjoy the ride and, take the rough with the smooth. That's all.
So this is last segment where we do this like a quick rapid fire, like this or that.
Okay.
So
do I win a hamper at the end of it? Karan Johar's hamper.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do, for that matter. So your hostel or your department?
Gosh. Okay, department.
IIT Delhi or IIMA?
IIT Delhi.
Prouder moment, getting through IIT Delhi or getting through IIMA?
IIT Delhi.
KLS or mess food? We never spoke about that.
Oh gosh, that's a clear answer, KLS. The only thing is KLS में कुछ बचता नहीं था. जब तक आपका आता था number और वो लाता था, जब somebody finds out कुछ नहीं आता था. Used to love the mutton there and they would just not be available. Yeah.
First year or fourth year?
Fourth year.
Sadi Delhi, Amchi Mumbai, या Namma Bengaluru?
Gosh, now that's a difficult one. I would say Sadi Delhi and Amchi Mumbai are almost 50-50.
Oh, right. You would be very minuscule.
Yeah. I've had fun in both places, and the fun I had in both places was because of my friends at IIT Delhi.
Right. Rendezvous or convocation?
Oh, rendezvous, absolutely.
Student life or current life?
Student life, man, no question about it. Absolutely, no question about it. It was so much fun. And thank you for making me relive all those moments.
I'm so glad we could do this. Thank you for taking out the time.
Yeah.
And thank you for having us here as well.
Sure.
We look forward to having you on campus someday. And please.
Yeah. No, I keep. I kept bobbing in every now and then and meeting my old professors.
Yeah.
I will probably in my next trip I'll jump by.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.